Yo, what is up guys? Welcome to the video. I hope your day is going great. Today we got a really fun and exciting video. The Overwatch League is almost back. Tomorrow is the day, and we're going to be talking about the power rankings. Where is every team at right now, and how do we think they will be doing in the next meta early on? We're going to be taking a good look at most of the teams, seeing how they're going to do. Do they have a good shot at making the playoffs? It'll be a similar format to that LA Gladiators video I made, but just a little more condensed since I'm talking about a lot more teams. Remember guys, these are my power rankings. They're probably going to be different from yours. We all have different opinions. Feel free to come join my stream right now on Twitch. I am live. You can come ask me any questions, discuss these power rankings, or anything else Overwatch related. Don't forget to drop a like on the video, subscribe to my channel if you enjoy Overwatch League content because I upload it every day. And now, let's go ahead and get into this video. Yo guys, what's up? So basically the past 4 to 5 hours I've been working on this video. It's long as hell, and of course, out of nowhere, as I'm basically done editing it, I get this freaking notification that NateNanswer on Twitter says they are not playing on the new Hanzo patch. It will be 1.22, not 1.23. Luckily though, I am smart and I didn't base this video mainly off of Hanzo meta. I based it off of just all of the changes overall, where we're going to be seeing Bridget, less Tracer, stuff like that. I pretty much had a feeling that we were going to be playing on the 1.22 patch and not the new Hanzo one. So I didn't talk too much about Hanzo here, like literally at all actually, besides the very end. We mainly focused on the Bridget patch, so it's still going to be a great video. Anyways though, let's go ahead and check out what NateNanswer had to say. Recently, there's been a lot of discussion as to which patch Stage 4 of the Overwatch League will and should be played on, 1.22 or 1.23. The league and the developers share the goal of Overwatch League play being on the latest patch possible, with certain exceptions. One is if it would be unfair to introduce a new patch mid-stage in the heat of competition. That's why the patch that reworked Mercy, which went live in Stage 1, didn't appear in Overwatch League until Stage 2. Another reason is we feel a new hero or significantly reworked hero hasn't been available for our teams to practice long enough in advance of the start of the stage. Tournament stability is a third reason. A potential bug exists in patch 1.23, which inhibits the ability to accurately resume play on an escort map should a pause or disconnect occur. It should be noted that the Overwatch League version of any patch is distinct from the live patch. The developers have been working hard to a fix in time for the Overwatch League players to prepare, but thus far they have been unable to do so, to the degree of certainty that we will require the league. As such, given the paramount importance of the tournament stability, Stage 4 will be played on patch 1.22. So no Hanzo guys, it will be the OP Bridget meta, and again, because I did see this update coming, I focused mainly on the Bridget meta, so this video is very relevant and really good guys. Let's go ahead and hop into it. So there's this interesting clip of Muma. He was talking on his stream basically about the meta and what it's going to look like, how he thinks the game is going to shape up in the next coming weeks, and it's actually surprising hearing what he had to say, so let's go ahead and play this clip real quick. Also, real quick to note, in this clip, he is talking about the Bridget meta, not the Hanzo meta.
It's crazy. Dive is still very good on the current patch that we're scrimming. Dive is still very good, and Spaghetti isn't even that strong against Dive. It's Hanzo that fucking ruins it. Hanzo's like the real problem. That's it. Do you still use those tanks on certain maps like Gibraltar? I mean, some teams are running Rhine Zarya on Gibraltar, and some teams are still running Dive on Gibraltar. If the patch that we are planning to play right now is the patch that we actually play on for OWL, it will be the most versatile meta that the game has seen, or that Overwatch League has seen, I should say. I think.
Play whatever.
I'm not for sure on all this. I have only been scrimming for 2 days, but I think I think I'm right.
Also, again, real quick to note and make sure you guys understand, the meta he is talking about that is really versatile is the one without Hanzo. That's the one they have been practicing. Wow, it's actually very interesting to get some insight on what the teams are playing right now. He did say it's limited time, only 2 days. I figure a lot of the teams are still experimenting with Dive. I do feel like by the middle of the stage, the league will be pretty stagnant and everybody will be playing like the similar playstyle, the similar comp. Whether it is those full tanks or a mixture of Dive and tanks, I'm not sure. But I do know during the middle and end of the stage, everyone will be playing the similar playstyle or comp, because there's always going to be one comp that is just superior. It always happens. At the beginning of huge patches like this where everything changes, a lot of teams are going to experiment what they think is good. Some of them will stick to those things that they think is good, but most of the teams will eventually fall back to what most of the other teams are running and seems to be the strongest comp. But it still is exciting because for the first couple weeks, we probably will see a lot of versatility within the Overwatch League meta. I'm excited to see all the playstyles that are going to be mixed together and who is going to be the smartest and strongest coming in. And one last thing to note before we get into this, guys, so much is changing. This is the biggest meta shift by far, like 10 times any other meta shift we've seen so far. So trust me, when I say everything is going to be shaken up, it is. For all we know, Dallas Fuel could be the best team. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and hop into the power rankings. We're going to start off with number 12, the Dallas Fuel. Right now in the standings, the Dallas Fuel are sitting at 6-24, -47 in maps. They're 10th place, but they're going to be 12th in these power rankings because I don't think they're going to beat Florida Mayhem or the Shanghai Dragons moving into the stage. Specifically, they have a very early matchup against the Dragons coming up in week 1. And I've been saying it for the past few videos. I have zero faith that the Dallas Fuel will be able to pull this one out because Effect is not going to be there. They don't have Rascal anymore. They don't have any super hard carries. And ACAM can kind of really only carry on Soldier or Pharah in my opinion. His McCree is decent. His Widowmaker's okay, but it's not carry potential. He's going to lose to Addo and Dia in a Widowmaker duel. And don't even get me started on his Genji. It's one of the best, but Shanghai Dragons will be able to handle. No, I'm just kidding. ACAM's Genji is not one of the best. It's the worst. And they're simply going to lose to the Shanghai Dragons. They are. Shanghai has been improving so much. It seems like every single team in the league has literally been improving. All of them. It's hard to tell with teams like Houston, LA Gladiators, Philly, the ones in like the middle of the pack, if they're improving or not, because they're always losing to each other and winning against each other. But they still are. They're improving together. The whole league is improving. Dallas Fuel is literally the only team that does not look like they're improving at all and haven't. Most of the time, it just seems like the Dallas Fuel are getting worse and worse as a team. Shanghai Dragons, they improved so much over the last stage. Starting off from the first week, they got destroyed by the Dallas Fuel. By the end of stage 3, week 5, they were getting maps off of London Spitfire, Seoul Dynasty, Boston Uprising, Philadelphia, LA Valiant. They literally got multiple maps off of all of these teams. I really do think Addo, Dia, and Geguri are going to run amok on the Dallas Fuel, and because of this, Dallas Fuel, they have to be last in the standings. They have to. If Shanghai Dragons is going to beat them, Shanghai Dragons is better. Dallas Fuel, as I said, they have limited star power, maybe Unco, but that's really it, honestly. I don't see them being able to win this no matter what the meta changes into. Dallas Fuel are doomed. Moving on to number 11, we have the Shanghai Dragons. Now, the Shanghai Dragons might have improved a ton, but their problem was that they were really bad when they started improving. So they have had a long road, and it is still going to continue to be a long one. I do not think they are better than the Florida Mayhem. I do not think they are better than San Francisco Shock, LA Gladiators, anybody above them. So they're going to be sitting at number 11. I do think there is potential for them to sneak another match off against a team like Houston, maybe San Francisco, Florida. Somebody might slip up against them, and Shanghai might have a really good match. They are sitting at 0-30, -88 in maps. It's possible for them to go 0-40. Highly unlikely. I think they will be going 1-39. So that's going to be Shanghai Dragons sitting at number 11. Moving on to number 10, we have the Florida Mayhem, or should I say Saya Players team, because that guy is an animal. He pretty much has been popping off since he joined the league. He had like one bad match to start off with, but since then, it's been nothing but just insane plays, incredible Widowmaker shots. This team's honestly only been going as far as he could take them, and they've been struggling. It seems like they hit their peak during stage 2, and then they kind of lost their momentum when Logix decided to take a break. Then Saya Player came in, and they started improving a little bit again, but they're definitely going through growing pains. They picked up Awesome Guy, Saya Player once again. They are Korean players, so there is a mix of culture, and we know how things like that can go. Look at the Dallas Fuel, for example. It's hard to adapt when you're just so... It's hard to adapt as a person when you're so used to something and then you go into a different type of culture, living style. So it is going to take them some time. We also seen this with the San Francisco Shock early on when they picked up Architect. Sinatra came in, Super came in, a lot of growing pains. But I think eventually Florida Mayhem will be a pretty decent team because going into this season, they were lacking in coaches, they were lacking in players. They only had 6, they only had 1 coach. Now they have multiple coaches, they have multiple subs across the board, and now all they need to do is really work hard and improve. So the grind is going to start for Florida Mayhem. They're going to be sitting at rank number 10. Moving on to number 9. And you guys know, this is where it gets really hard. It used to be an easy one for the San Francisco Shock, but they looked pretty damn good in the last stage. And some of you guys may be shocked here, but sitting at number 9 going into this stage is going to be the Houston Outlaws. Now, the main reason I got the Houston Outlaws at number 9 is because throughout the season, it seems like they have been the team that has lacked a lot in adapting. When the meta shifted and Junkrat wasn't as popular, they struggled. They really did. Without a Tracer, it was really tough for them. Fortunately, they won't really need a Tracer this stage. But besides that, everything is changing. It's going to be so different. Now, we heard what Muma said earlier on in this video, and although he probably is right for now, we got to remember he's only had 2 days of scrims, and once we get into the end of week 2, early week 3, the meta will start to shape, and there will be a dominant playstyle and comp. And I just feel like the Houston Outlaws, because of their adaptability so far that we've seen, they're just going to struggle with all these changes. There's so many, and I don't know if they're going to be able to deal with it. We haven't seen too much flexibility from their players overall, so it's going to be hard. The main thing the Houston Outlaws have going for them is looking at the maps going into the next stage. They're pretty good at that. In Blizzard World, they're 4-1 on. Kings Row, they're 4-2 on. They're 5-1 on Horizon Lunar Colony, 3-2 on Hanamura. As for Control, they've kind of always struggled on this mode. They're 3-7 on Lijiang Tower, and 4-7 on Oasis. 5-1 on Gibraltar, though, and 5-2 on Dorado. These are some of their best maps so far in the Overwatch League that they've played. And if anything, it does make me want to move them up a couple slots, but it's really hard, guys. I know some of you are going to be upset about this, but you have to look at these other teams. San Francisco Shock, they looked really good last stage, and they beat the Houston Outlaws. And then looking at the flexibility of the San Francisco Shock, they're going to be pretty good in this meta, in my opinion. That's the Houston Outlaws. They're going to be sitting at number 9. I do think they're going to struggle early on finding an identity, and come like week 4, they're still going to be behind the other teams who have a good grasp on how they need to play the meta. And sadly, because of this, I don't see the Houston Outlaws making the playoffs. And that's it. Houston Outlaws sitting at number 9. Let's move on to number 8 in the power rankings. Oh man, and I might get a lot of flack for this one. We have the Boston Uprising sitting at number 8. That's right, guys. I have Boston Uprising from number 2 in the standings right now, 22-8, moving all the way down to rank number 8 in the power rankings. You might be thinking I'm crazy, but if you look at their history in the Overwatch League, these guys have really struggled when new patches came out. Boston Uprising had a really good run in stage 1, but when it ended, Mercy nerfs came in and the meta really shifted for about 3-4 weeks in stage 2. Boston Uprising, they looked like one of the sloppiest and worst teams in the league at the time. It took them nearly 6 weeks to pick up speed again and look like one of the better teams in the league. Obviously, once they did pick up speed, they looked like one of the best teams in the league, and they were. But I have this gut feeling that this meta shift is really going to hurt them. Striker was basically a one-man team. I know he wasn't, but he was doing so much for this team during their win streak. It is just unreal to think about how good he was playing. It was MVP caliber, and he's not going to be able to do it in this stage. Why? Well, Tracer's just not as good, and Tracer easily gets counted by Bridget. I don't care what Muma has to say about Bridget not being good. It's good against a Tracer, and if another team has a really good Tracer, running Bridget is going to stop him, 100%. So I really do see the Boston Uprising struggling coming into this next stage early on. It's going to take them 3 to 4 weeks, just like the Houston Outlaws, to adapt to the meta and figure everything out. Now, they're in a better position standings-wise, so they will end up making the playoffs, but I do 100% see them struggling in this new meta, especially considering they do have a weak point, which is mistakes. Yeah, he was a pretty good supportive DPS player. He could sit on the Widowmaker, you know, create space, not really look to die, not really look to get kills, but just make his presence be known. Now I don't know what he's going to play. Yeah, Widow's a meta still, but his Widow wasn't that good. And if he's going to be going up against Widows 24/7, he's going to get slammed by Fleta. He's going to get slammed by Soon. He's going to get slammed by Carpe, EQO, Linkser, Asher, Surefour, Architect. All these snipers are going to destroy mistakes because he's just simply not as good as them on it. I don't know where he's going to be fitting in on this meta. As well as that Diva is nerfed, so I don't know how Note is going to be able to adapt. We've only seen him on the Diva. So there's a lot of question marks for the Boston Uprising. Adaptability is going to be a big problem for them, and that's why I got them sitting at number 8. And now let's move on to number 7, and this just gets even harder for me, guys. Seriously, do this yourselves. Actually sit down for 30 minutes and think about how you think every team will perform in the next stage. It is very hard. Moving on to number 7, we do have the San Francisco Shock. These guys struggled early on in stage 3 after all of their changes, But surprisingly, they turned it around really quick. By the middle of the stage, they were a completely different team. Like literally, they were 5 times better than they were from that first match of stage 3. I was extremely surprised how fast they adapted and how good Architect is. He's extremely flexible and he's really good at all the heroes he's played. He's a great projectile player, a great hit scan player. Specifically, his Pharah and Widowmaker are the most impressive to me so far. I think he's going to have an easy time adapting to this new meta, whether he is playing that Widowmaker or he's playing a hero like Zarya or Bridget. He just seems really flexible and good at the game overall, so I have a lot of faith in Architect. Then for the other DPS players, we have Dante and Sinatra. Now Sinatra, he's a really good Zarya player. Some people might not know this if you're new to the Overwatch League, but prior to the league, he played a decent amount of Zarya and he was really good at it. So he's going to have a good place here in this meta. I think Dante's even a flexible player who could play something like Bridget. They also have Troy Hoban coming in, Nevix, they'll be fine on Bridget. Overall, a pretty good roster. I am a little scared for Super though. I don't know if he's going to be able to adapt to this meta. I feel like he's always been a really good Winston, but I'm not too sure about his other heroes. So the big question mark for San Francisco Shock will be Super. Other than that, I feel like they'll be in a decent spot, and they might be able to make a run for top 4. If not, they'll be around top 6. And speaking of 6, moving on to the next team, we have the Los Angeles Valiant. And this is where it gets really hard because I think all these teams will be pretty decent or at least average moving into this next stage. Now, the main reason I'm going to LA Valiant and not Seoul Dynasty or Philadelphia Fusion, London Spitfire, is because there's a lot of question marks about their roster. They have a lot of unknown players who have just basically not touched the Overwatch League yet. But then if you look at the starters, it's actually really unknown factors for them too moving into this next stage. Soon and Bunny, they're both really hard Tracer mains. I know Soon can play a little bit of the Widowmaker, but if that's it going into the next meta that he's good at, that's going to be a problem. Then looking at agilities, he's a really good projectile player, but outside of that, I've never seen him touch anything besides Roadhog. And I don't think Roadhog is going to be a prominent pick in this next meta. So there's a lot of question marks about their DPS players. We just seen Space join the league. He's been a really good diva, but has he been practicing other heroes? Ever since I've known Space and he was on Yikes, he was just playing diva, so a lot of question marks there about him. His backup is Finzi, which has never played in the league either, so a lot of questions. The things they're going to have to rely on coming into this next stage is going to be Fate's really strong main tank play, and Kariv and Custa's really good support play, which I think is where they're going to be strong, which is basically the main reason why I put Valiant over teams like Boston and Houston. I think Fate is a little bit better than Gamsu and Muma, although Muma and Gamsu are pretty good as well. Then it comes down to supports. I think Kariv is a very good Zenyatta. I think he's better than Nako. Nako's pretty close to him, but Kariv is a little bit better. Then we have Custa, and I think he's been thriving on the LA Valiant, which is why we saw a really good performance from them last stage. I just have a lot more faith in them moving into this next meta than some of the other tanks and supports. But I can't put the Valiant any higher because of these reasons. There's too many questions. And just thinking about it, it was just such a tough call. Boston, Houston, Valiant, they're all in a similar boat. I guess I just favored the support and tank play from the Valiant over the other two teams moving into this stage. Moving on to rank number 5, we have the LA Gladiators. Now, I did a really in-depth video about how they're going to do in this next stage and if they can make the playoffs. I do think they have a better chance than the Houston Outlaws at making the playoffs. It's going to come down to the Los Angeles teams. Who is going to be better, the Gladiators or the Valiant? Obviously, the Gladiators have to perform much better to make it than the Valiant do. They can afford to drop a couple more games. But I do think the Gladiators have a better chance at adapting to this meta. I feel like they have the right pieces that fall into place. They have Surefour, who's been playing amazingly, by the way. He can handle all of the hit scan duties. Hydration can do projectiles. Bishu and Void, one of them will definitely be able to adapt to the Bridget meta. Fisher is just an absolute god. Their backline's amazing. They have the pieces. These guys are proven to be flexible in the past. They also have a really good coaching staff, and they've adapted pretty quickly moving into new metas. So again, it's just going to be a race between the Los Angeles teams. Whoever performs better than the other will more than likely make the playoffs this stage. I got the LA Gladiators sitting at rank 5. Let's move on to number 4. Now, moving on to number 4 in the power rankings, we have the Philadelphia Fusion. I think they will hands down be the best Western team going into this stage. I had the same feeling I had about the Boston Uprising going into stage 3. I think they're really going to be able to fit this meta well. They have Carpe, he can play that Widowmaker at an insane level. Then they have EQO, which he has proved he can literally play anything. So I have no doubt in my mind that EQO is going to pick up whatever hero this team needs, and he will play it at a high level and much faster than any other flex DPS player can adapt in the league. Think about it this way, guys. A big reason why Boston Uprising are way down there and Philadelphia Fusion is way up here. Look at mistakes, then look at EQO. That's my point. Yes, I want EQO every time. Please. Then you also have Shadowburn and Snillo, who are two proven amazing players, and if for some reason EQO or Carpe can't hold their own, then those two will be able to step in, and they will probably do it. So the depth for the DPS players moving into this stage is insane. Then we move on to off tanks. We have Hoppa and Poco. I think Poco is a really good diva, he's a really good Roadhog, and he's a really good Zarya. So adaptability and flexibility seem to be no problem for Poco. And if it is, well then they can throw in Hoppa, who is a little unproven. We've seen a decent amount of him from stage 1 and stage 2, and if needed, he could probably step in. And then moving on to main tanks, which is where it gets interesting for the Philadelphia Fusion, because they are no longer just stuck with Fraggy. And by the way, I think Fraggy is a good main tank. Yeah, he does have this super aggressive playstyle about him, but it works a lot, and lately in stage 3 in the middle of stage 2, he has started to learn to play more passive and die a lot less. And let's also remember, Fraggy is a god at Reinhardt. Coming into the Overwatch League, he was the best Reinhardt, and he still might be. And if we're moving into a meta where Reinhardt is the best, Fraggy's going to carry. He will carry, I promise you guys that. And then if there are any problems for some reason, they have Sato to come in. As for the support players, they then have Boombox, Dayfly, Joe Meister, Neptuno, all really good. This team is stacked for this meta. They really are. They should have no problems adapting to it. Every single player on their roster is good. Philadelphia Fusion might be one of the best teams in the league. They could pull a Boston Uprising this stage. We'll just have to wait and see, but I have a lot of faith in them right now. And that's right, guys. The final 3 teams left are New York Excelsior, Seoul Dynasty, and London Spitfire. You guys probably aren't surprised about New York Excelsior, but for the other two, I bet you are. We have Seoul Dynasty coming in at number 3. I know this list is going to be controversial, but this is really what I'm feeling in my gut, guys. This new meta is going to change a lot. Now just hear me out real quick about the Seoul Dynasty's roster. Let's start off with Zunba. We're moving into a meta where it's going to be dominated by Zaryas and who can build up fast grabs. And prior to the Overwatch League, who was the greatest Zarya to ever play the game? It was Zunba. And I have a strong feeling this guy really wants to get back on that Zarya, and he really wants to get his team to start looking like one of the best in the league. And that's going to be a huge part of this team. Then, let's move on to Fleta, who is probably the best or second best Widowmaker in the league. Widow is going to be big in this meta, guys. And when you're running Widows all the time, Fleta's going to dominate. He's going to destroy you in the 1v1. He's going to get flashy plays. He's going to carry, straight up, just like Carpe. I also think the swap by Jaehong over to main tank is revitalizing this team, and they're going to make a run for it in stage 4. And this team is hungry, guys. They were the team that was favored to win the whole thing. They haven't made a stage playoff yet. These guys are hungry to make a stage playoff and prove they deserve to be that team that was favored at the beginning. I feel super confident looking at their roster overall. I think these players are going to be able to adapt quickly. They might even throw Miro back in there, who hasn't been able to play too much Reinhardt this season, and he was a pretty good Reinhardt, so we'll see what happens. I think Seoul Dynasty are going to be in a good spot. I see them making top 4 playoffs 100%. And now let's move on to rank number 2. We have the New York Excelsior. Yes, that's right, guys. No, I'm joking. If you haven't disliked this video yet, which I'm sure a lot of you have, you probably just did. No, I'm joking. It's not the New York Excelsior. It's going to be the London Spitfire. Of course, I'm going to get flack for this, and I really did juggle back and forth between Seoul Dynasty and London Spitfire. Which one did I want to be number 2? Which one did I want to be number 3? It really comes down to Birdring. Like, that's seriously what it comes down to for me. Is Birdring going to be back? Is his wrist okay? Can he play like he did in stage 1? If so, he is going to dominate. He's going to be one of the best Widows in the league, 100%. If he's back in form, he will dominate on that Widowmaker. If he's not, well then London Spitfire, we might as well drop them down to rank 6. But I'm betting Birdring's going to be back. If he doesn't, then Birdring's never going to be as good as he once was. Because if he plays like crap in this stage, he'll probably play like crap in the playoffs. And if he plays like crap in the playoffs, he'll never reach his peak again. Never. So this is his chance to shine, and I think he will. He's a great player. He always has been. Then let's talk about their other DPS player, which I've always been high on, Prophet. You guys know this. I think he's really good. He's very flexible. We've seen him play amazing on Roadhog. We've seen him play amazing on Zarya. We've seen him play amazing on the Junkrat, which Junkrat and Zarya are probably going to be meta this stage, and I think he'll probably be picking up that Zarya play, and I think no matter what Prophet plays, he will be good at. Then moving on to Fury, we've seen him be flexible in the past. He can play the Zarya, he can play the Diva, so I think him or Huyal will be fine picking up a Bridget or going over to that Zarya while maybe Prophet picks up the Bridget. Then we have Gesture, who I picked as the best Reinhardt in the league last week, and I still do think he's the best Reinhardt. And I think he will carry this team. I think him, Prophet, and Birdring are going to carry this team to the top 100%. London Spitfire will be back in form, top 3. And then moving on to number 1, we're finally here, guys. We have the New York Excelsior, who are simply just going to be insane this meta. They have Pine, one of the best widows. They also have Sabiolbi, he's a really good widow. Then they have Libero, he's a really good widow. Oh, did I mention they have Libero? He's also the most flexible player in the entire league and probably the best at pretty much everything. Even though it's not the 1.23 patch with the updated Hanzo, we will still see some Hanzo on like King's Row, maybe Horizon Lunar Colony. And Libero is insane at Hanzo. He's absolutely nuts at it. Definitely the best one in the league. They also have Mako, who has shown he's a really flexible off tank, so he will be able to pick up that Zarya or the Bridget, whatever they decide to put him on. The big question mark for them is going to be Sabiolbi. He's a player who has really kind of only played like Roadhog, Tracer, and Widowmaker throughout his entire career, and it's mainly just been Tracer, like it's small percentages on Roadhog and Widow. So it'll be interesting to see if he picks up like a Zarya or a Bridget. It'll be interesting. I do have a feeling that Pine is going to get a lot more playtime than Sabiolbi going into this stage, and we'll be seeing a lot of him on Widowmaker and Hitscan, which will be strong in this meta. As for their main tanks, we have Mano, we have Janice. I'm pretty sure one of them will be fine on Reinhardt. They have Jonak. Nothing's going to change for him. He's going to be on that Zenyatta. Ark's going to be on that Mercy. Nothing changes really for these guys. They have the pieces. They're going to be the best. They are the favorites to win Stage 4 and the finals. And that's pretty much it for my power rankings, guys. This video is going to go on for a while. I didn't think it would take me this long to get through all of these. It's just so much is changing, and so many of these teams are going to need to adapt, and the question is, who can do it the quickest? This is really where I think all the teams are going to stand going into the league. Let me know what you guys think down below. Come discuss it on my stream. I am live right now. If you want to call me an idiot, feel free to. The link will be down below. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like on it, subscribe to the channel. And that's pretty much it for me, guys. I'm out of here. Peace.